Insider, ask you a question about Triple H, and I thought it was so interesting because I never thought about it like that at all. And they said, how much does Triple H remind you of Eric Bischoff? What did you kind of think about that question?
You know what? Well, I answered it on PW Insider, and it's an interesting analogy because the knock on Bischoff was always, well, he didn't create his own talent. He just stole guys from ECW and New Japan and WWF. And certainly, you know, there was some truth to that in that he signed a lot of people away to better his company. And if he had the money to do it and the wherewithal to do it, why wouldn't you? Anybody else would. And anybody who says they wouldn't, they're full of it. If Paul Heyman had the money to do it, he would have done it. It's that simple. You know, but I think the difference is that, you know, Triple H is looking to nurture and create the next generation of guys, and there are no veterans out there. You know, William Regal's not getting in the ring taking bumps with people to wrestle and make them better. There's only so many guys who can get in there. You know, like right now, the Dudley Boys and Chris Jericho are there on Raw and SmackDown. Those guys only have a limited time span. They're not going to have the time or even the ability as they get older in their careers to be able to work with some of these guys and give them the rub and teach them and bring them up. So if we start bringing in some of these independent veterans, give them a chance to be spotlighted, and now Baron Corbin can work with Austin Aries, and Austin Aries can help Baron Corbin improve, then it's the same process, only it's on this level. You know, and I think, you know, if you look at what WCW produced in-house, other than Goldberg, they failed to really produce anybody. WWE on the NXT roster, they produced Charlotte, they produced Bayley, they produced Bo Dallas, they produced a number of other people. And you can make a case that Triple H is trying to develop talent for the main roster, and some of them will succeed, some of them will fail. And in the meantime, you know, if you're you know, the wrestling business is different now from where it was in the mid-1990s. And right now, you know, you have to it used to be there was a nuclear war for talent to see who would end up on Monday nights and see how to better your company. Now there's an arms race, but the arms race is what can we do to arm ourselves so we have talents 3, 4, 5, 10 years down the line. So it's a similar move, but it's a different mentality. And let's face it, Eric Bischoff, in that era, he made a lot of moves based on ego and threw a lot of money around based on ego to hurt other people. I don't think Triple H is making moves to hurt TNA or making moves to hurt Ring of Honor. He might be doing things to be competitive, but at the end of the day, he's just trying to make sure that his garden continues to grow because he's got to be able to run it once Vince is gone. Now, who knows if Vince is ever going to retire, but at one point, Triple H has to be ready, and he has to have his soldiers ready to go. So I don't see, you know, I think the Bischoff comparison is interesting, and you could certainly say it's true, as Obi-Wan Kenobi would say, from a certain point of view, but I also think you could argue against it, because really, Bischoff didn't do enough to produce talent from within WCW. A lot of those guys who went through the power plant really were cast-offs and afterthoughts after a short time. They never really got to have long careers elsewhere. I think the one exception would be Mark Jindrak, who went on to really, you know, become a big star in Mexico. A lot of these other guys, they ended up kind of washing out and being low-level guys in WWE or never having a WWE run. You know, Goldberg, obviously, amazing talent, amazing personality, made a ton of money with them. He certainly made money and laughed all the way to the bank and then got the hell out of the wrestling industry. But I don't, you know, if NXT could produce one Goldberg, everyone would be sitting pretty for the next decade. But since they can't or they haven't been able to, they have to make sure that everybody is groomed and built as strong as possible. And if they've got to bring indie guys in there to do that, to help groom these guys, it's a smart thing to do. You know, you can't go back in time and get Greg Valentine and Brutus Beefcake to go in the ring and work with Jason Jordan and Chad Gable to help them become better tag team. But if there's a great independent tag team who's been around forever, who can have great matches and maybe help them become better talents, why do you not sign them and bring them into NXT? It's like what I talked about with Samoa Joe earlier. Joe will help make Baron Corbin better. Joe will make Sami Zayn a better babyface. Joe will have a great match with Finn Balor. But Joe can also turn around and work with the undercard guys who have never gotten the chance to have programs before, have never been on live TV before, and Joe can get them through that. So if, God forbid, they end up like a deer in headlights in the middle of a takeover, and they get lost under that tremendous, absolutely tremendous pressure. Joe can be there to pull them back into where they need to be. You don't have a lot of veterans like that anymore. And in 2015, the veterans right now who aren't on that main roster are the guys who work the independents and internationally.
Very, very true. Very well said.